long, leave me alone.
Hey everyone, so as you can tell from the title of this video, what we are going to be doing today is some upgrades to the 2030, thanks Thor. So some upgrades to the 2032R tractor as far as lighting goes. So I noticed when using this, it's not, it's not too bad. I'll give you we'll pull it out and show you an example of what it looks like at night. There could be some better lighting to it. So we're gonna do this video in stages. So what I end up doing is I read some reviews online, and right now, so this has a Fender lights. All the lights on it are halogen at the moment. So I know I ended up buying. I didn't go with the John Deere kit because the John Deere like LED kit was $430 or $450, and it was just a little ridiculous for what you're getting. You could get better lights for cheaper. So I decided that I was going to go the aftermarket route with the lights, and I wanted 2 additional lights on top of the flashers, and then 1 for the back so I could see when I was hooking up implements or working, or just doing any work in the back. Typically most of the work on the tractors done during the day, but there are a couple times, and my thought behind it before was, oh, I'll just keep a flashlight back here. Half the time a flashlight's dead and it doesn't do what you need it to. So for as quickly as you can do it, I'm gonna wire up lights I'm gonna wire up some additional lights. But first part of that, being a little bit OCD, we know that the LED lights don't really shine the same as the halogens. So I ended up finding some replacements, some LED replacements. Those just came in. I'm gonna install those. We'll go outside and we'll show you what, the difference from the lights that come with it compared to upgrading them to the LEDs, and then we'll show the difference with adding the additional lights on. And I just got those from Tractor Supply, so yeah, let's go open up those boxes. So here's the lights. These are going to be the lights that we replace in the front bulbs, I believe, and these are going to be fender mounts. So, but first things first, let's go out there and show you what the stock lights look like in the dark. So we're going to be replacing the fender lights first. This is pretty easy. Just a simple clip here. I'll unsnap. This comes out. Clip comes out. And before I put it in, I'm actually just going to check and make sure that the clip works. And it does seat in, so I'll take the next one out. Half a quarter twist and they should pop out. So old, new. The twists. Snaps right back in. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. All right, so what we're gonna do next is I'm gonna change one side of the lights, and then we'll do a comparison, a direct side-by-side comparison, and then I'll put a video up of the full LED switched out, but at least now having half the tractor with the LEDs versus the halogens, you'll see, directly side-by-side what they look like. Let me get my helper here. Hi. This is just a little pinch clip, pull that off. This is a dust cover that comes off of it. Mason, don't pull that off yet. dust cover. Nope, not yet. And then this is retained with some springs. I'm gonna have to put the camera down to pull those out.
There. I put
All right, good job, buddy. So that is the halogen.
And that is nothing. I like do the same one.
And here is the LED.
LED.
And now that one's in. You got to make sure that that is, push this in tight so it seats the spring. All right, so that's seated well. Put the dust cover back on this. You do want to make sure that that is, those springs are seated, that the springs are what's keeping it retained. So make sure those are seated well. That's all set, and now we will plug this back in. All right, so let's turn these lights on. We'll take a look at it in the garage.
Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely cleaner. What do you think, bud?
Yep.
Yeah, definitely a cleaner look. Lined in. All right, let's don't look at it like that.
This one.
All right, so we're gonna take a quick ride outside so you can see the difference side by side.
Can I see that?
So I gotta be honest, as you can see from the side-by-side comparison out there, the LED lights are very bright and have that nice white color, but they don't project quite as well as the halogens, at least from what I'm seeing. So the one thing I do know though is the spare set that I'm gonna put on here, the extra set I'm gonna put on the front and backs, will be more like spotlights. So I'm all right with it. I'd rather have all the lights match, but if I wasn't putting the additional LEDs on, I probably wouldn't make the switch over to the LEDs, you know, versus halogens. So overall synopsis of these, the front lights are pretty much right on par. They're a lot brighter than the halogens, but they project about as far. The side lights are definitely brighter, but more of like a floodlight than a spotlight. And I think you can probably tell that from the video. So all these lights, the accessory lights that I bought, I actually ended up buying at Tractor Supply, so we'll go through them now. I'm gonna put the rear light on a switch just in the event that, you know, doing any work on the woods, or, you know, if you have to drive on the road at all. I want to have control. I don't want you know, a spotlight to be shining behind me as I'm driving. So the rear light I am going to put on a separate switch, and the two front facing lights I'm going to just have switched to the auxiliary lights. So when you put the fender lights on, these other lights will come on too. So these are the lights that I'm going to be using front facing. I went back and forth with trying to figure out how I was going to mount the, you know, these lights, and then what I ended up deciding, I think the cleanest job was going to be to mount them on top of the you know, the brush guards for the lights. So what I ended up doing is John Deere makes a part for that, and I ended up buying that. So it was around 90, you know, 90. You could probably find them for 90 to 100 bucks. But what these are just brackets that will bolt to the ROPS bar and protect the lights, and then they come with a hole on top, so the auxiliary lights will be mounted like this on top of them. As far as the lights go, these are actually pretty nice. I think they were on sale from, you know, $60 for the pair to $44. So it's gonna be hard to tell from the video, but this is nice. This is like aluminum housing, so it's pretty decent looking lights. Just plug in and I'll wire them directly to that pigtail. I just Video is gonna take a couple days to make, because I want to make sure that I get the right connectors. So when I'm running the wire for this, I can connect them, you know, rather than splicing, put the butt connectors just like you would get from the factory. So these are the front-facing lights, and this is the rear work light. I decided for the rear work light, what I would do is, you can see the size difference between them, because I'm only going to have one in the rear, but the rear one's going to be mounted on the inside of the ROPS bar, and we'll do a quick mock-up before I actually start working on them. So one piece of advice that I'd give anybody working on, you know, any projects, is, especially like this where there could be any fabrication or fitment involved, is just mock it up prior to getting too deep into the project. So that's what we did here. These are loosely in there, so these are the brush guards around the light. We got the lights roughly mounted, and I noticed a few issues. So if we look at this, it's clear that the head of the bolt's supposed to come up through the top. You can see this stops there, stop it from spinning. And the issue we have here is we're not going to have the clearance to put the bolt in through the top. So that there. So if we go over to this side, take a peek, the bolt's too long. So I have it kind of roughed up the way I'm planning on doing it, and could still fit a little adjustable or a wrench in there to tighten it down there. But it's still, that's an 1.25 inch bolt, so I'm thinking 3/4 of an inch will be fine. But that's probably the way I'm going to get around that. And likewise, we have a little bit of an issue for the rear facing light as well. I plan on using the bolt that goes through the ROPS to hold the lights on and this frame. And what I noticed is there's not enough clearance right there for this to, you know, make it. So a couple options are to just either replace this bolt or grind this down. So the easiest thing to do would be to replace the bolt, but I am going to grind this down because I want this to be able to rotate. So I want it to rotate up or down depending on where I want this light in the back. This bolt isn't going to be able to twist because it's going to be tight in here, and I don't want it loosening up, so I'd rather the frame twist. So in order for that to twist, we have to make sure that this is, you know, there's room in here. And we just barely squeeze by here. You can see there's contact, but we're still able to do it. So the way I'm going to handle this is I'm going to grind this down a little bit. Technically on this, I could just grind this whole thing flat, but I'm not going to get too carried away. We'll just stick a file to this and knock it down. So time for a quick update. So a couple days have passed. I had to run out, get some parts. So I believe where we last left off, where these bolts were a little too long. So this light's actually all set up. It's all wired. That's what it looks like from the front. And as you can see, we got these 30mm bolts, I believe. So that fits. We just had to kind of reverse this to make it work with the light. Let's take a look at what this looks like hooked to the switch. So we'll get into the reason I did this in a little bit, but here's we got that light, and then that light still needs to be adjusted, but you can see pretty bright. So these front lights, like we mentioned, will be worked off that switch, and we're able to accomplish that by running a wire down here and connected right to the pigtail. You can see that's kind of a little dark, look at the flashlight, but that's nice and neat. We'll take a better look at this side. This side's still open, so that's the pigtail that we're connecting into. And actually, I will show you what I found at NAPA to accommodate that. So I already have this one all spliced up and ready to go, but essentially this is what it is. It's a 12-inch 2-pole extension, and I just cut it in half and used one for each side. What I will say is be careful, make sure you know the polarity on the plug that you're going into. So going back, here's the rear facing light. The other thing we were working on is this bracket wouldn't accommodate that bolt. So I ground down inside there so it works. And now we have clearance on this up here too. I was going back and forth whether or not I wanted that rear light on a separate switch so it wasn't constantly on when the regular work lights were. So I was going back and forth whether or not to run the power straight to, you know, here or the battery, or put a power block in. So I first saw this idea on the Guy with the Tractors channel. We went with the second route, and I'm going to be putting a power block into this side of the tractor here. So later on, if I want to add any more power to the back, all I'll have to do is pull it from there rather than running it, you know, running wires all the way to the battery or to a power source. I will say it was a pain in the butt to run just this one wire, so I couldn't imagine running multiple, so that's kind of what helped make my decision for me. You have a couple different options here. So this is ground, and then you have continuous power or keyed power. I'm gonna set that up with keyed power. So let's take a look at how, stupid stuff. So let's get underneath the tractor and I'll show you how that wire was run. I took these two relays out, and so it would make it a little easier to, you know, thread that wire down through there. And I also took off this panel so you'd have access underneath there to help guide it down. You're about to see in a minute how much of a pain this was. So this is where the wire's coming down. Right there, it's following the main harness. Underneath, it's going up there, and then following this routed above the hydraulic filter. Won't leave me alone. Alright, so then you come over here, it's gonna be tough to see. It was a pain to get it, but I'm sure you'll catch that wire coming over. Down through here, again, still following that harness, out, following the harness and up, and it's tapped right in through that same fitting. So I'm gonna get this out of here. This is the harness for the light. I'm not exactly gonna need that in there. But you can see that's where it comes up with that harness. And here's a fuse power block. And then I'll have to I'll probably set up a ground in here, but I'm not exactly sure because there is a cover that goes on here that has fuses coming up. So it has these. So I'm gonna think about how I wanna mount this in here. Also considering that it's not completely watertight. So in the future, I might change this block out for you know, a watertight one. But I was kind of hesitant to go with the cover because, you know, with the vibration of the tractor, I wasn't sure if a cover would just, you know, fall off and be bouncing around in there. But anyway, I got some wires to splice up, and we'll come back at you when we have this a little closer. Well, she's all back together. I figure I'll give you a quick look at in here so you can see the harnesses are hooked up to those switches. Everything else is pretty clean. The block I added, the power block I added is right in here, underneath there. And ground's out of the way. I don't know if you can see it back there, but right about here. And so get ready to put the screws back in here, get this all set, and get these lights tested out and aligned to where I want them to be. Let's take a look. So as you can see, there's actually a big difference in those lights compared to the factory. So definitely glad I went with those. It lights up quite a bit as a video shows. So I wanted to. One of the reasons for making this video is not only kind of show you how it was installed and how the wire was run, but I was looking at a lot of videos online trying to determine whether or not it'd even be worth adding the lights. And all you see is a shot essentially of the head-on shot looking right into the light. I didn't really see too many videos showing showing it actually lighting up the darkness per se and actually using them. So I will put I'll put the product information in the description. If I was to change one thing, I probably would go with like a floodlight in the back rather than a spotlight, which that was my mistake when I purchased them. I wasn't gonna bring it back though, but I think those lights look pretty clean. Looks nice. They don't look like they're kind of out of place. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. So don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.